Okay, so we're going to go over assembly of your Kel-tec cp33 folding pistol brace adapter. It's not a brace itself, it's an adapter for the tail hook brace, right? So first thing first, when you've gotten your 4 parts printed, make sure you've deburred holes drilled out for sizing, knocked off any sort of super hard sharp edges, right? So it's a bit more comfortable to handle and use. For the latching mechanism, I did use a magnet. It's these things here. You can get these at Home Depot. They're pretty cheap. So I just went ahead and press fit that in there, and you can put a dab of super glue in there if you really want to reinforce it, but I haven't had any problems with it coming out. So the buffer tube adapter piece, there's a little ridge on it that matches the little ridge on the bottom of the Gearhead Works is it the Mod 1 tail hook, right? So make sure that's on the bottom, and that'll be facing the large hand side, so just stick that in there. You can throw some super glue in there if you want, but the clamping forces on this will keep it together, so you don't really need to. Before you stick this on, you want to get the little piece on. So the little spring is just one of these little sliding hinge springs. Went to Ace Hardware, and this was like in the sliding hardware door, or the sliding door hardware section, because they didn't actually have any springs smaller than this in their spring section, which is a little strange. But took and cut off half of that and stuck that into there, and then the other half will feed into that. So you just kind of push it onto it and it'll work itself in there. And then you'll need a M3 screw. I think this is what, how big is this thing? Yeah, it's a, well, they called it a 30mm one, but it's a little bit shorter than that. So you'll just start that by feeding into this hole. I've gone ahead and done myself a service and drilled it out so it doesn't actually touch threads there. It makes assembly a little bit easier. And then you'll just push down in. And difficult to do with a camera in front of me. There we go. And I've also drilled out this so it's not hitching on the pins themselves. And then the bottom actually screws itself in. There we go. And so that's your hinge or your latch mechanism there. And then all you have to do then is assemble this on. And then this is another 30mm M4 machine screw. So that's it. That's the entire latch mechanism assembled there. Tolerances are pretty tight on it, but I mean it works very well. And then at this point, then you can assemble your brace, whichever way you want to put it on there. Preferential, up to you there. Me, I prefer, primarily because I'm right-handed, to leave it on the right-hand side. And just stick that on there. And then, of course, tighten that down. You don't want to go too tight with it. It's plastic buffer tube sort of attachment, so it's not really much pressure that you need to keep onto it, but because it's got this collar on there, it's not going to push past it. So and then all the force is going to be pushing into your forearm, right? So it's not really something that you need to tighten too much. Just finger tight, really. And if you're too worried about it coming out, then you can stick some Loctite in there. But yeah, that's the assembled mechanism there. Now to stick it onto the pistol itself, as you can see, it's already clear. It's a single rocking motion because there's a bit of flexibility in the plastic itself there. Of course, make sure you remove your screws first. So there's like a cotter spacer pin inside there that's drilled and tapped. That's what those go into. So you'll just stick it on there, line it up with the latch. It's going to take a little bit of force, but you'll just push it up until it quite literally just pops right into place. And that's that. And then just simply feed your screws into there. Once again, you don't have to go too tight with this, just finger tight really. Because if you go really tight on it, because of the ABS plastic, it will essentially just smush it out. Alright, that's it. So now you've got your folding mechanism here, and then that magnet that you pressed in will actually latch right onto the takedown pin, and then that keeps it, you know, fairly rigid there. Of course, it's just a magnet, so it's not going to keep it locked, but it'll keep it out of the way at least. Of course, this design doesn't obstruct your finger well. So it's easily usable left or right-handed. So, but yeah, and then because of the taper, it'll push that locking mechanism out of the way and keep it open. Now there is a bit of flex, but I mean that's just the nature of plastic. If you want, you can, you know, drill a hole from the front end and feed a rod through the center of it. You know, or if you're printing it, you can leave a well open on it, or, you know, leave the top layer off, put a metal bar or tube inside it, and then epoxy fill it back in. But I mean, yeah. So pretty straightforward design, nice, compact, out of the way, doesn't add too much to the back end or to the width of the pistol there. And yeah, that's what we're looking at. So designs are available on, well, if they'll let me, the designs are going to be available on my manufacturer. If not, I'll find somewhere else, and the link to the file will be in the description below.